or conclusive that it was, conclusive it wasn't.
And so when you write that report and there's a different shade of gray, the lawyers get together and they go, well, maybe you should settle this case.
A lot of cases get settled. Most
Yeah.
of them do.
Sure.
I would say the average for me is probably about 1 out of 12 that goes to court.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's with the national average or anything like that, but
You had some other interesting cases you wanted to talk about tonight.
I do have some interesting cases.
Unfortunately, we only have a half-hour show, so pick some of your best ones.
I had a murder case, and it was in New York. The attorney, I was very impressed with the attorney. He said, Mr. Baier, we already know that this man had something to do with his girlfriend's death. But there were 3 notes left at the crime scene. One was in Spanish. And he said, I need to know if he wrote them. If he wrote them, I can best defend him by going in this direction. And if he didn't write them, I can best defend him by going in this direction. So, of course, there was no writing. He didn't have any writing, no checking account, no nothing. He had no writing. So I have to go in and take what's called request writing. It's a 2-hour session, and you do it in such a way that they don't know what you're trying to look for, and we have standard letters in the field that if they write the letter, it's every uppercase and lowercase letter in the alphabet, every number twice, so that they just do the letter and you get samples.
Okay.
So at the end of the case, basically I determined it was definitely his writing from the request writing that I took. Then all of a sudden 40 letters surfaced, some in Spanish that he had written to his girlfriend, and it just solidified.
And
there was no question.
he was saying that he didn't speak Spanish. He didn't write or speak Spanish.
He couldn't write in Spanish or anything.
Whatever happened to the guy? Do you
Most
know?
of the time we don't find out. You know, we are one piece of the puzzle in a case.
Sure.
When we give our testimony, they don't allow us to stay in the court.
How about forged notes?
Forged notes. I get those. I don't think that they're probably as common.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of a case that I'd like to show some of the things
All right.
for the viewers if I could.
Sure. Which one do you want to do first?
I'd like to show them the check. You know, I get a bunch
Okay.
of forged checks on cases.
Okay, that's common.
I'd like to tell the viewers that there is no such thing as a signature line on a check. And I'm going to show you.
Let's hold that up for the camera.
You've been writing your checks, what you think on a line, for years. Well, it's not a writing line. It's not a line. This is what it looks like, and it says authorized signature, authorized signature, authorized signature, all the way across. There's a little MP at the end for micro printing. It is done as a security feature. There is no photocopy machine made today or no scanner that can scan a check and have that writing come through. It will be a series of random dots. So it's a security feature. There are 7 things I can tell in 10 seconds if a check itself is authentic. There are state codes. There are it has to have a perforation on one side, unless it's a government check or some payroll checks.
Okay.
The coding, the markings on it, are going to have a factor as well. This particular check, you're not going to be able to see this. This is ridiculous. But at the top of your check, look at it. And if you are in the state of New Jersey, there will be a 55 first. That is the state code of New Jersey. So if I look at a check and it has a 55, and the address is Oklahoma, there's a red flag. And there are so many things you can tell before I even look at the writing or the signature.
Wait, let me go back to the endorsement on the back of a check where it says sign here.
Uh-huh.
Well, when I get those checks back, my signature shows up, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not good?
Well, first of all, you don't get the checks back anymore.
Well, yeah, you get the photocopies.
You get the photocopies. They're all miniaturized. You get 8 or 10 on a page. But I'm not sure what you're referring to when you endorse the back of the check.
Yeah.
And you get it back.
Well, so actually, it's somebody else's check, and I endorse it. You know, it says sign here.
Right.
And I give it to my bank, and they negotiate it, and then the money goes in my account. Is that the thing that you were talking about?
No, I was talking about the front of the check.
Oh, just the front. Okay.
The front of the check.
Okay, got it.
That's right there at the bottom on the right.
You had a case in Syracuse?
I did. I had a case in Syracuse where this gentleman was going to jail. If he was found guilty, he was going. And he really didn't write it. Now, I would say more often than not, when I do have a criminal case, when the person denies writing something, they really are guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And when they continue to maintain their non-guilt until they see my report,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll, okay, yeah, I wrote it, and then they'll try and plea bargain or something like that. But sometimes people are consistent. And when I look at it, I had plenty of samples, and he really did not write it. And this was a jury trial. And I tried to explain to the jury, and I always have court displays so that I can show my findings with arrows. Look at this letter here, look
Right.
at this, look
Sure.
at that. And I explain about the writing habits to them so that they can understand. I'm trying to allow the jury to see what I saw through my eyes. That's what I'm trying to do. And if I can't explain myself in front of the jury, my client's not going to prevail. They have to be able to understand, first of all, what I'm talking about, and they have to be able to see what I saw.
So now you could, a photocopy is, you've mentioned this earlier, that you can see so much more on an original than a photocopy. Why is that?
The original, when you look at it, we magnify things so much that you can see pressure into the paper, and I can show that too. But when you look at the actual writing line that is formed, and you look under magnification, it almost looks as large as the furrow in a farmer's field after he plows. You can see the depth of the writing. You can see the position the pen was in. You can see all kinds of things from the pressure into the paper.
I never thought of that, but you know, you turn a writing over, somebody's written with
And
a ballpoint pen.
you rub your fingers on it, you can feel it. You can feel the pressure.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if you were on top of something, you'd be able to see the indented writing on the sheet below it. On some people, I have one of those too. Could I?
Yeah, come on, let's see it.
This was indentured writing right here. This is enlarged, but you will be able to see. This was done with side lighting. I took a powerful flashlight and I put it almost flat to the paper. And when I did that, you could see the pressure from the sheet above it that was pushed into the paper. So that's called indented writing.
And so what you would do is you would take that characteristic of that person's handwriting on that sample, or the original, and then compare it with another one to show the characteristics of their penmanship.
Yes,
and then if they match, like a fingerprint, then there's more likely than not than it's the same signature, or it's not.
Yes.
Right?
In this particular one, I thought there were 3 question documents. I figured somebody had a sheet on top of another sheet, and when they signed one, it just went through into the other sheet. Well, when I enlarged it and I examined it, it was not the signature of any of the other sheets, and this case was a scam. They had done so many things. It was a huge money factor case. They actually photocopied some of my client's signature onto the document. Then someone in original, in gel pen, signed it underneath. A date was photocopied. This date was original, and they did that on a couple of documents. So you can tell that instantly from an original. When somebody photocopies something onto a document and it's not original signature, you can see that under magnification right away.
Now, you had a case, a contract with a woman from the Midwest.
I felt so bad for this poor girl. You could tell she's a down home, a real, what I consider a Midwestern person is.
Okay.
She's accused of signing a contract with a trucking company. She didn't sign it. I had all of the samples. She was more or less harassed for 2 years by these attorneys. You're going to court. We're going to do this. She had no money. She had to take out a mortgage on her house to be able to pay for the airfare and the hotel in New York. And it actually went to trial. In that particular case, the judge came right down off the bench. It was a bench trial, like a hearing type thing. I had all my court displays. He was from me to you, looking at my displays as I was explaining them.
Right.
When I got done, I'm gone. She told me, he called both of them, both attorneys in, and said, this case is over.